Hello my dear students, welcome to this session. We had ended the last class with a big question mark, isn't it? And what was that question? We had ended our class how, what, how to identify the violations, how to identify the violation of agreement. We had discussed about the decision of the politicians to bring an end to the piling of nuclear weapons and start disarmament, but here they had a problem, and for the purpose they summoned a meeting of the experts, the technical experts and the scientists. So, the problem was how to identify the violations. Suppose if any of the signatories, any of the parties violated the law, violated the agreement, how to detect it, and for the purpose the scientists are invited, and now the problem will be solved with the help of scientists. So, once again I would like to say there is hope of survival in science. Science is the hope of survival. Yes. Shall we look at the next paragraph then? Okay. Open your textbooks and look at the paragraph number 7. It turned out that this problem had a direct connection with the theory of seismic waves. Underground nuclear explosions produced earth tremors very similar to those generated by earthquakes. How could one distinguish the natural tremors from the ones produced by the explosion? Suddenly, my theoretical knowledge had a direct application in the area of survival of the humankind. Yes, here it turned out that in the meeting, when the scientists and the experts had all gathered to find a solution, here finally they came up, it turned out that this problem had, they studied that this particular problem had a direct connection with the theory of seismic waves. Our author, that is Kalisberg, was an expert in the theory of seismic waves. Now they realized that this theory of seismic waves can be utilized. This theory of seismic waves can be utilized in order to find a solution for the problem. How? How can it be used for the solution, solving the problem of violation of the law? In real, underground nuclear explosions produced tremors. What is tremor? Tremor is shaking of the surface, shaking or movement. So, here the underground nuclear explosions also created tremors, created shaking of the surface of the earth, surface of the land. Explosions produced earth tremors very similar to those generated by earthquakes. In both the cases, in the nuclear explosion as well as in the earthquakes, tremors are created. Tremors are created. Earth's surface gets shaken. So, here how to differentiate which is due to nuclear explosion or if the tremor is due to earthquake? How to differentiate this? And here the solution is given by these scientists. They could differentiate. How could one distinguish the natural tremors? What are the natural tremors? Natural tremors are the tremors created by earthquakes from the ones produced by the explosion. How to differentiate, how to distinguish the natural tremors from the tremors caused by the nuclear explosion? So, here this was the problem once again, and this problem is answered by these scientists because of their theory of seismic waves. Suddenly my theoretical knowledge, who is my here, who does my refer to? That is the author, the scientist Kellis Baruch. So his theoretical knowledge had a direct application. Now he realized that his theory of seismic waves can be directly applied in this problem. It can be used. He feels very happy to use this theory, use his knowledge to solve the problem which was put before these scientists. So now, can you guess? Can you guess what is the difference? How to differentiate? How to differentiate between the tremors of nuclear weapon or the tremors of earthquake, natural tremors? See here, the natural tremors, you will find the S wave more stronger. It will be stronger. What is S wave? S wave means secondary waves. Yeah, let me show you in a diagram. See here, in the natural tremors, the waves are caused like this, and these are the secondary waves. The primary waves will not be so strong, they will be weaker, and the secondary waves, what are the secondary waves? One wave leading to the secondary waves, and these secondary waves will be stronger in the natural tremor. When any earthquake takes place, then the secondary waves will be more stronger, and in the explosion, nuclear explosion, earth tremor, in the nuclear explosion, when earth tremors or earth shakes, the primary waves are more strong. Primary waves are more strong, and there are no secondary waves. So that is how we can differentiate the nuclear explosion, underground nuclear explosion, and the natural earthquake. Tremors of underground nuclear explosion and the natural tremors. So natural tremors, secondary waves will be stronger, and in the underground nuclear test, underground nuclear weapons, the primary waves will be stronger. That is how we distinguish, we differentiate the two tremors. So this is the answer given by the scientists, which helped finally the politicians to take a decision, to come out with a decision of test ban, nuclear test ban or disarmament. The Treaty of Disarmament is signed. So, in the atmosphere of ongoing Cold War, with political tensions hanging over our heads, scientists and engineers from the opposite sides of the Iron Curtain had to find a solution which outwardly seemed impossible. Given all our differences in cultural background, what saved us was a clear and obvious distinction. We were all scientists. We were able to work out a common language based on respect to hard evidence, undisputable ranking by expertise only, and persistent self-criticism. We were working out a solution that eventually allowed politicians to reach one of the most important decisions of their times, that is nuclear test ban. In the atmosphere of ongoing Cold War, what was the condition? What was the condition at that time? I have told you it was 1960s, the height of the Cold War. It was at its zenith. The rivalry was very strong between the two powers. There was a very strong rivalry, enmity between the two sides, the USA and the USSR bloc. And amidst this, in this situation, With the political tensions, the situation was politically highly tensed, hanging over our heads. These scientists are from different countries, and there are scientists from both the sides, both the rival sides, and they are in the political tension. Scientists and engineers from the opposite sides of the Iron Curtain had to find a solution. Both the sides, from opposite sides also, scientists and engineers had to meet together, had to come out with a solution for the persisting problem. So, here there is a word Iron Curtain. What is Iron Curtain? Do you know what is Iron Curtain? That is the political, military and ideological barrier. The political barrier, or you can say political disturbance, or you can say political rivalry. Amidst this, in between this political, with this political condition, they had to work together to find a solution for the problem, to save the world. So, what is Iron Curtain? Iron Curtain means the difference or misunderstandings, or you can say rivalry, political or ideological enmity, rivalry between the blocks. So, from the opposite sides of the Iron Curtain had to find a solution. Now, they had to find a solution, forgetting all their political differences, forgetting all their enemies, forgetting the things that we belong to different ideologies, we are the enemies, forgetting the thing that we are not friendly, we are not the allies. Remembering this, all these things in their mind, they had to work together for the common solution, which outwardly seemed impossible. But if you look at the political condition of that time, it was really impossible. Outwardly, it was really impossible. Then what made it possible? What made it possible? That is, see, given all our differences, why was it impossible? Because there was there were every kind of differences, ideological difference, political difference, misunderstandings, then also they had cultural difference. They belong to different cultural background. In spite of all these differences, how did they come together? How did they discuss together? How did they come out with a solution? That is a clear and obvious distinction, that is their knowledge, their expertise, the science. Which brought them together? That is science. Science brought them together only because they were the scientists, and only because they were the experts, technical experts, they were brought together. We were all scientists. We were able to work out a common language, forgetting all their differences. In spite of all these differences, they forgot all their differences and they remembered only one thing. Their language was only one. They had all only one language based on respect to hard evidence. Hard evidence. Respect only hard evidences, proof. Undisputable ranking by expertise only. Who is considered high? Who is considered above the other? That is only the expert. Only expertise is ranked higher. Only knowledge. What is expertise? Expertise is his knowledge, one's knowledge. Expertise only, and persistent self-criticism. Persistent means continuous self-criticism. Self-criticism means criticizing our own actions. Self-criticism. Only these brought all the scientists together. Once again, let us look at this part. We were all scientists. Only thing that is all these who joined together were scientists, they could do the good job. We were able to work out a common language based on respect to hard evidence, undisputable ranking by expertise, and persistent self criticism. We were working out a solution that eventually allowed politicians to reach one of the most important decisions of their time, that is nuclear test ban. And only the efforts of all these scientists, in spite of their differences, they have come together and they have discussed and they have debated and they have come out, they have experimented, and finally they supported the politicians to come up with an agreement. They have finally let the politicians to take a very important decision of banning the nuclear test. Nuclear test ban was the result. And this episode taught our author. Who is the writer? Who is the author of this lesson? That is Kalis Barak, a scientist, Russian scientist. Finally, he studied so many things because of his experience. In this situation, he learned a lot of things. This episode taught him that was a scientist. This episode taught me that as a scientist, I have people all over the world who think and interact the way I do. It taught me never to feel lonely abroad, and above all, it taught me that while there is science, there is hope of survival and well-being for all of us. So, this is the lesson he learned from his experience. His participation in the team, his participation in the discussion made him learn these things. What things did he learn? So, that is, he learned as a scientist, people all over the world who can think like him, who can think and interact. People all over the world can think and interact the way how our Kalis Barak could think. The same way even they can think. And the other thing which he learnt is never to feel lonely in the abroad. In the foreign country, we are never alone, we are not foreigners. And above all these things, he also learnt a very important thing, that is, while there is science, there is hope of survival. While there is science, there is hope of survival and the well-being of all of us. This is the important lesson he learned from his experience. He learned by participating in the meeting of scientists. This is about his experience. Next, let us move on to the next paragraph. A common lore is that immersion in science does not go with the practical sense. It is true that on occasions a greatest mathematician of our time was so involved in a current problem that he could leave home wearing shoes from two different pairs. However, if you look carefully, you will find another side of it, which makes scientists the most practical people in the world. All new technologies are new brands of industry, from defense to entertainment, stem from fundamental research. Among past examples are antibiotics, electronics, biotechnology, synthetic fibers, the green revolution, and genetic forensic diagnosis, to name just a few. And now only the basic research could give us new sources of energy, new mineral deposits, and efficient defense from terrorism, cure from cancer, new forms of transportation. People trained in theoretical physics are headhunted by financial institutions. Those trained in frontiers of biological research become founders and directors in the pharmaceutical industry. So, knowledge of basic science will give you a head start in whatever career you choose. Is that clear, my dear students? Yes, we will look at it once again. A common lore, people know this, a kind of knowledge, common knowledge about something. A common lore is that immersion in science. Here in this paragraph you will find two contradictory ideas about the scientists, two different ideas. On the one side, in the first part of the paragraph, they say that they are far from reality. The scientists are far from reality, and the second part of the same paragraph will say that they are the most practical people. They live in the real world, isn't it? So, you have to understand these two contradictory ideas. See, a common lore is that people normally understand that immersion in science does not go with the practical sense. Immersion, what is immersion? Immersion is, what is immersion? Being absorbed. Being absorbed in something, that is immersion. ತಲ್ಲೀನನಾಗುವುದು, ತಾನು ಮಾಡುವಂಥ ಕೆಲಸದಲ್ಲಿ ತಲ್ಲೀನನಾಗುವುದು. So, that is what immersion. Immersion in science does not go with the practical sense. Normally, people understand that if a scientist absorbs himself in an experiment or in his discovery, he will not be in the practical world. He will be in his own world. He is not a practical person. And you have some example. See, it is true that on occasions a greatest mathematician of our time, a greatest mathematician of our time, who is our here? Who does our means? The time of Calis-Barak, in the time of Calis-Barak. So, our time was so involved in a current problem. He was so much absorbed in his problem that he could leave home wearing two shoes from different pairs. He could not understand at all. He came out of the house, he came out of his home wearing two shoes from different pairs. Yeah, you have one more example too. All of you might have heard about Newton, our dear friend, who speaks about law of motion, isn't it? If you take the example of Newton, in real he is a scientist, a greatest scientist, isn't it? But once in his laboratory, when his kittens, when his cat gave birth to kittens, foolishly he made one more hole, a hole, additional hole for the kids, it seems, for the kittens to move, to go out and come in. Already he had a hole for the mother, a larger hole, he made larger hole for the mother and one more smaller hole for the kittens to move. So, that is the limit of foolishness of these scientists who are immersed in science. This is another example for their immersion, and therefore, it is said scientists are far from practical sense, they are away from practical life. But this does not hold good everywhere. However, see, if you look carefully, you will find other side of this. If you look carefully, if you interpret carefully, you will find the other side of this, which makes scientists the most practical people in the world. And then you will realize that they are the most practical people in the world. All new technologies, see, today we are all the servants of science and technology. and all these new technologies, all new brands of industry from defense to entertainment stem from fundamental research. Stem from means take their support. They have come up, this is the stem, and they have come out from the basic research. The basic research itself gives the support for the new developments, latest developments. Among past examples are antibiotics, electronics, biotechnology, synthetic fibers, the green revolution, and genetic forensic diagnosis. Genetic forensic diagnosis. What is genetic forensic diagnosis? Genetic forensic diagnosis means the knowledge of genetics used for used to solve the legal problems. Knowledge of genetics used for the solving of legal problems, that is what genetic forensic diagnosis, genetic forensic knowledge science. So, and now only the basic research could give us new sources of energy. Now, we are experiencing the energy crisis, and how can we solve this crisis? By seeking refuge from science. So, that helps us to generate new sources of energy, new mineral deposits, and efficient defense from terrorism, one of the major political problems that we are experiencing, especially in India. So, it can be answered, it can be solved with the help of science. Cure from cancer and new forms of transportation. So, these are all contribution of basic research in science. People trained in theoretical physics are headhunted, are searched. People search for knowledge. Headhunted means they are searched, they are in great demand. They are in great demand. People trained in theoretical physics are headhunted, headhunted by the financial institutions. The financial institutions are searching for these technical experts. Those trained in frontiers of biological research, those who are experts in biological research become founders and directors in the pharmaceutical industries. So, knowledge of basic science will give you a head start in whatever career you choose. So, here the knowledge of basic science will always make you an expert. What is head start? Head start means expert. So, knowledge of basic science will give you a head start in whatever career you choose. Thank you, my dear students. We will be back with one more part of this lesson. Thank you very much.